you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. We're back. Jerry Coleman, the former MLB veteran, Mike Bordick, 14 years on the job, now working with the podcast, Orioles Hall of Famer. We're producing brand new content every day on our X page, our Facebook page, our Instagram page. And again, you can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, like Bordy and many others at Bmore Sports Pod. When you follow us at Bmore Sports Pod and show us evidence, we still have a few of these $50 Lido Pizza gift cards to give away. So show us evidence. And again, you're eligible at Bmore Sports Pod if you show us the evidence. All right, just ahead, we're going to be joined here in episode number 32 by former Orioles manager, coach, and of course, pitcher Alan Mills. Mike and I also give us our perspective of Mike Elias's press conference. That was a doozy. And we'll talk about what does no more no-nos mean for the meantime. And of course, we'll catch up with the great doctor, Dr. Michael Jacobs, in our What's Up Doc segment. Let's bring in our featured guests. They are brought to us by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today by going to pappascrabcakes.com. And again, that's pappascrabcakes.com. We welcome in former Orioles coach, manager, and of course, player Alan Mills. Alan, great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We've been looking to track you down, man, and we finally got you. How you been, and what you been up to? Fill everyone in.
Well, since I've been out of coaching, I started teaching. Both my parents were teachers. Both my sisters were teachers. Just something that I guess our family does. So been doing that for a few years. Started coaching again this year, and just looking forward to our upcoming season.
So, Alan, you talked about your family being in the teaching business. Well, I think
Right.
You're an exceptional coach too, because I think coaching and teaching kind of go hand in hand. But when I saw you coach, man, you demonstrated on the field, right? Do you still do that today with your young players?
Yeah, I do. For every now and then, I still can't do what I used to do back when I was playing with you. But I mean, sometimes you have to show them because they don't believe you. They have all the bells and whistles. They can go on the internet and find anything they want. So sometimes you have to show them just to kind of let them know that you do know what you're talking about.
Right.
Alan, I got to ask you, I don't think Mike knows I was going to ask you this, but before, Bordick arrived in Baltimore, you got to Baltimore in 92, and Mike comes in and shoves Cal Ripken over to third base.
Oh, come on, man.
What was it like inside that clubhouse to see this guy come in from Oakland and supplant a legend there?
To be perfectly honest, I don't think anybody took much offense at it. I mean, Bordick came with a resume where, the balls hit to him, it was going to be a done deal. So, I mean, it made us better as a team, and that's what you're trying to get to in any organization that you're with. I mean, we didn't take a step back by putting him at shortstop. We actually got better.
Well, you don't have to say that just because he's here with us.
No, it's the truth. I mean, Cal was getting older at the time. He's a very good fielder. Don't get me wrong. His stats prove that. But going to shortstop, you have a guy of that caliber that's been playing in the middle all his career. He goes to the corner. I'm not going to say it's going to be easier, but you have a younger shortstop, a guy that has a resume that, follows him right onto the position. And then you have a third baseman that's been playing shortstop all his career. We got better as a team.
Alan, that 97 team, now I talked to Cal about this, and, Cal's got an Oriole World Series ring, and he still thinks that 97 team might have been the best team he's ever played on. What are your thoughts on that 97 team?
I tell people all the time that team probably was the best team I've ever, been a part of. We went from day one to the end of the season in first place. That's hard to do in a 162 game schedule. I think what happened to us that year, we were so geared to play the Yankees in the ALCS that when they lost to Cleveland, it was a letdown for us. So, we came in against Cleveland looking to play the Yankees and put them out. And, Cleveland came and they just gave it to us. It wasn't like we didn't play. All the games were great. They were close games. they just outplayed us. I mean, I still believe to this day, if we would have played the Yankees, we would have gone to the World Series, but we didn't, and Cleveland took it to us. That's simple and plain. That was the best assembled team I'd ever been a part of.
Hey, did you ever hear the rumor that they had Armando's pitches? So he tipped his slider, and that's both pitches. Like Grissom hit a slider, and Fernandez hit a slider. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I've heard that. That game when Fernandez came in, I pitched right before Benitez, and that hit that he got, they won the game. But I just think they outplayed us, man. I think for us psychologically, just like when that kid took that home run the year before in New York, we had a mental letdown, because at the time we were hot. And the next year we came back, with a vengeance. Okay, we're gonna take it to them. I don't care who you play, when we play, or what time. It could have been at 7 o'clock in the morning. We were gonna beat somebody down. And for us, at least for me, it was looking forward to going to New York, sending them home, and going to the World Series. And when they didn't show up, it was like, okay, we got Cleveland, nah. But you still have to overcome those things, and we at that time we just didn't.
Yeah. Still painful for all of us to talk about, for sure. Now,
Yeah.
when we get to today's Orioles version, a lot of these guys you got to see when you were managing in the Gulf Coast League down in Sarasota. I spent many a summers down there with my late mother, and then I would go by myself. I mean, you saw a lot of these stars that are Orioles today come through under your guidance.
Yeah, they're a talented group of kids. Well, they're not kids; they're men. But I got Rushman for a little bit. Gunnar Henderson, Mayo. What's the center fielder's name? Krauser. He was there for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say this. I may have my differences with the organization and how they do things, from top to bottom, but overall, the one thing that they do very well, they don't usually miss on their picks when it comes to position players. They usually do very well when it comes to that. As far as development of pitching, that's another story. But I mean, it is what it is. Not to bash anybody. It's hard to pick a pitcher. You pick the guy from high school. There's no telling what he's going to do. College is a little different, but the guys that they picked high, most of them have developed into pretty solid, Major League Baseball players. You have to give them credit for that.
No doubt about it. You mentioned the pitching, and yeah, the game has definitely changed. Driveline came in. This is what I need to know. I love talking to pitchers that pitch back in the day, workhorse guys that got their job done the right way. And you were definitely, one of those pitchers. But the amount of injuries that's happening in the game, what do you attribute that to, and can it be fixed?
It really can't be fixed because of the way the game is played. You get a starter now, and the way they teach the starters now is like, okay, don't save any of your pitches, get them all out of the way right from the first batter. Throw all your pitches. That's why the pitch counts get so high. That being said, okay, you still have what, 25 man roster. So if a guy's not going 7 innings, he's going 5, maybe 6. You got to cover 3 or 4 innings every night with your bullpen. So if the rosters don't increase, the workload increases for the bullpen. And that being the case, you're always going to have arm issues, because guys are putting in more work, and 162 games is a long season. So,
yeah, I think the Orioles found that out. Jerry, did they set a record for most injured players this year, or I think they might have tied him?
Close, yeah, and mostly pitchers. I mean, they've had numerous guys with Tommy John surgery, but it's great to see Bradish come back. I don't know if Kyle Bradish was ever under your tutelage, Alan.
No, I saw him in spring training. I loved him from day one. I was like, this guy here he has awesome stuff, and he has the mindset of a pitcher. He gets after guys. I really like to see guys that do that. He's a special guy, so I look forward to seeing him back on the mound.
Well,
Have
like
you
I, I got to tell you, I was a little befuddled with the way things ended with you and the Orioles and the Gulf Coast League and all that because I was down there religiously. I know those players loved you, admired you. What's your relationship with the club these days?
I don't have much contact with them. I mean, they didn't renew my contract. And that's the part of baseball. I mean, a lot of people, I guess, feel like maybe I should be bitter, but I took over a program in high school before I got the job with the Orioles in 2012, and I got rid of everybody that was on staff. And usually when you come in and you're new, you're gonna bring your people. So that's what they did there. I don't think it was a bad move on their part. I thought, you look at any organization, not just baseball or not just the Orioles, most people when they do come in, they bring their own people, and that's what they did. And that's what they're comfortable with. And you know, it 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 worked for them for a little bit. I mean, hopefully they'll get back on track.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get back on track and maybe get some of us old timers back in there to talk some old school baseball,
Right.
for sure. Would you have any interest in getting back into pro ball? I really think MLB needs, guys like you. Listen, not every player is a first round pick. As a matter of fact, most of us weren't, but we had to find a way to work and become great professionals. And I think you embodied that as well as anybody, getting the work done, being in the big leagues and being part of a great bullpen. I think that young guys need that kind of tutelage and guys that have had that experience around them. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's the way the game is going now. It's kind of like it's tilted. It's not. There's no balance. I'm not one of the old school guys that think analytics is garbage. I really believe it. Any information that you have is good information if you utilize it the proper way. But there is a tangible part of the game where you get a guy like Mike Bordick, you get a guy like you know Mike Devereaux, you get Brady Anderson, you get Roberto Alomar, you get Chris Holes, you get whoever you want to name that's been out there in the fire. A lot of times, what that screen says, the iPad can't really help a guy at the immediate moment. When the guy's been on the field, it's like, look, this is what I see. Not saying the analytics are wrong, but this is what I see. This is the adjustment I see them making. So if you don't make an adjustment right now, I don't care what that computer says, something's going to be wrong. I mean, you play blackjack, okay? You hit 16 or you hit 15, you don't hit, right? I don't know the rules, but there's certain rules that go with blackjack. Certain same thing with analytics. But there was a World Series other few years back. I think the Rays were playing somebody. I think Snell or somebody was pitching, and
Mm-hmm.
he was taking it to the Dodgers, taking it to him. But the analytics said it's time to take him out. But there's a there's a moment when the analytics can't can't really gauge what's going on at the present moment. Like if you look at analytics, okay, after a second time through the lineup, most pitchers' numbers go down, you know? So, all right, third time through the lineup, you take them out of the game. Well, if that's the case, no one will ever throw a no hitter. They wouldn't exist. But
Right.
there are times when the analytics don't come into play. And then what you're asking, Mike, that's when you get a true feel for the game. So I think the players today, and I can't speak on all organizations, but if you only have analytical guys and you don't have any guys that's played, there's an imbalance. You have only one side, and if you want the best for your players, you want the best of both worlds. And I think that's kind of what they're getting away from.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
I always thought it was interesting you chose to wear number 75. There's a story behind that. Do you share that with your players now as a coach? As maybe this is something as a motivational factor?
No, I haven't shared. I might share it this week. No, they usually give the highest number to the guys that are going to get cut. And when I was with the Yankees, my first big league spring training, they gave me number 69. So I knew I was kind of screwed. But I ended up making the team out of spring training. They wouldn't give me the number when we got to New York. So when I came over to Baltimore, I was like, okay, finally I get out of the Yankees. I finally get to an organization. Maybe I have a chance to make a team. And my number got higher. They gave me number 75. I was like, this is going the wrong way. And I did make the team. So I asked our clubby, Jimmy Tyler, if I came back up to Baltimore, if he'd give me number 75. So he did. And I always kept it as a reminder, to kind of, stay after it and never get content or complacent.
Those
I
guys
love
are
it.
still here. Those guys are still around, the Tylers.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week, only at Relief Shop.
The people that don't know you, really, from a competitive standpoint, I think you might have been one of the most intense competitors ever. But I know you as a teddy bear guy, man. I love you to death. In the clubhouse, you're one of the best teammates I ever had, a great clubhouse guy. But tell me the change, the Hulk, the guy turning into the big green monster when he takes the mound, man, because that's what happened to you. You had the Fu Manchu. I mean, you took the bump, you were just Mr. Intimidation. At least when I faced you, that's what I felt. And I knew I felt good when I was playing behind you when you took the bump.
I don't know, Mike. A lot of guys used to say that they came over free agency. They were like, man, I thought you were like the biggest jerk, can you curse on this thing? I don't know.
Yes.
I thought you were the biggest asshole, on the planet, but you're really a nice guy. When it comes to competing, man, you're out there to win. And it's a take no prisoner attitude. I mean, that's the only way I could stay up there. Their guys come every spring training. There's a guy coming from Dominican next year. He throw 98 miles an hour. He makes myself look like Little League. So I had to stay, on top of my game. So whenever I came in the game from the bullpen and you walk through the middle infield, I stop before I get, to the infield. And I don't know, it was almost like you infielders would kind of form like a gate that you walk between. I miss that. Like I always miss that. It's like, man, do they do that purposely or not? But it's like y'all wouldn't say anything. Y'all would just look at me, and I wouldn't look at you. I was kind of focused in, but it was like it's time to get this party started. It's like you have to have a mindset when you pitch, especially from the bullpen. You get the call. It's almost like, what took you guys so long? I've been ready to come in this thing, for the past 4 innings. So now that I'm here, the party's about to start, and it's my party. So everybody better act accordingly. That's, it's a mindset. Like you come there to get a job done. And what I used to do, my mom used to always talk about how she hated it. Like, okay, you come in the game when it's a whole bunch of mess. If I come in and I give up a hit and we're at home, you see the stands, the people walking up the stairway, because usually you're behind and you only have like maybe 3 outs left or, 6 outs left, whatever it is. But if you give up a hit, the game changes. But if you don't, it's like a rush that I really can't explain. Even on the road, like the Kingdom was one of the highest, loudest places I've ever been. You could sit right next to the phone and never hear it. I mean, right next to it, and it was loud. But if you came in the game in those type situations and you got the job done, it was loud when you were on the mound. But if you got the job done, the silence was actually louder than the noise that the crowd was making. It was
great.
like it's a really good feeling.
Yeah, that kind of brings me to my last question, because Mike talked about how mild-mannered you can be, like you are with us right now. And sometimes, there's a beast inside Alan Mills. So what do you tell your players when they go to the internet? Because the internet wasn't around when you punched Darryl Strawberry, but it remains out there forever. How do you explain that to the kids out there?
I don't explain it. I'm allergic to strawberries, so I really don't know what you're talking about or they're talking about. But that situation came up, and they told us from day one. Bordick, you were with the A's, I was with the Angels at the time. If your team gets in a fight, don't be on the bench. So, that night, Armando was mad. He was wrong, but he was my teammate. So, he could be a jerk, but he was our jerk. So you can't call him a jerk. I can call him a jerk. So when it all went down, it just kind of got ugly, and it is what it is.
Well, I'm sorry you're allergic to strawberries. I didn't know.
Yeah. And on another note, it's funny. I used to have a poster of Darryl Strawberry in my dorm room when I was a freshman in college. Like I love Strawberry. I love watching him hit, and I was always a fan of his. So it's kind of unfortunate that we're tied together in I don't want to say a negative way, but in a way that's, kind of not good.
Yeah, that was one of the roughest brawls I'd ever seen. And listen, I'm a lover, not a fighter, so I didn't throw any punches. But I was one of the first to meet Strawberry on the mound, and the scenarios that were going through my mind when Armando and he kind of met at the mound, and I was the first infielder up there, was I'm just going to go grab his ankles and just hang on for dear life and hope I don't get suffocated under this pile. And it was that you bullpen crazy guys that took it to the dugout and made it just a mess of it all.
It was their bullpen guys that took it to the dugout. I was chilled. Matter of fact, I think I was close to you. I was close. Armando was to my right, and I remember Jeter was to my left, and he was asking me, like, what's wrong with your boy? And I was like, dude, I don't have enough time to tell you what's wrong with Armando, And that was kind of, and it was funny because I was actually smiling inside. And the next thing you know, I just saw like a shadow, and I flinched, and it was Strawberry swinging at, Armando. And once he was in the dugout, it was just like, okay, you're in the wrong place.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Across the border.
So,
yeah. Crazy.
All right, Alan. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time. It was great catching
absolutely.
up. Man.
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
Appreciate you guys having me. Yeah.
Love you,
Good
man.
to see you. Love you too, man.
Wow, that was great to catch up with Alan Mills, Bordy. You and him had a great time, obviously, playing together.
No doubt about it. One of my favorite teammates of all time.
He is something special. All right, on to For the Birds, sponsored by the Maryland Lottery. Playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and the myths at mdlottery.com. And please, as always, play responsibly. All right, I wanted to provide my takeaways from the Mike Elias season-ending press conference, which occurred last Monday. The managerial search will be rapid. That was one takeaway. Mike Elias is in no rush to find a GM, another takeaway. They claim they'll spend in free agency wisely. We'll see. And they still believe in Adley Rutschman. Before I get some of your comments, let's listen to Mike Elias. But first of all, let me ask you this. The way the whole setup went with Tony Mansolino as the interim manager speaking first was odd to me. I thought he should have just wrapped things up at Yankee Stadium on Sunday with the media there. Now, maybe they wanted more local media and attendance. I'm not sure they got that. But it was also pointed out to me that Brandon Hyde does this all the time. But Brandon Hyde was a full-time manager. It's unusual, I thought, for the interim manager to speak before the head of the organization.
Well, I think that puts him right at the front of the managerial search, if you ask me. I think he's a better than 50-50 candidate. I think he finished the season strong, had a winning record. And when you get the support of your top players, Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg, over and over again, that means his relationship status is very high in that clubhouse. And that goes a long way for the continuity efforts of an organization.
No doubt about it. He has the player support. We'll see if he has the front office's support. Let's hear what Tony had to say about his future with the Orioles as he lobbied for the gig.
I do feel strong that I'm in good standing here, in one form or another. That being said, I also, understand the business and know how things kind of go, and understand that, might have to wear a different uniform next year. So hopeful to wear the Orioles one. If that doesn't work out, then obviously we'll kind of have to look around and go from there.
Again, just very weird seeing him out there before Elias, but he was very gracious. I thought he said all the right things, put his name in for the job, realized that, he could be working for another organization. But I, like you, feel like he is the leading candidate, and they're leaning towards going status quo because they know him so well.
No, absolutely. And I think the only reason he would be in another team's uniform is if they indeed did hire a new manager that didn't want Manzolino to be the infield coach and third base coach. My thinking is if they do get one, Manzolino's got to be the infield coach just for that relationship status once again. So I think he'll stay with the organization. He said he's in good standing, whether it's the manager or the infield coach or maybe even the bench coach. So think about it that way too. I really do believe he just has a really good reputation right now in that clubhouse.
Wouldn't it be odd, though, to bring in another manager and force a coach upon that manager, Mike?
No, for sure. I agree. That's why I think Manzolino kind of made it a point, understanding of how the game is. Sure enough, if a new manager comes in, just like when Mike Elias came in, he wanted people around that he could trust. A new manager wants people he can trust, and I think would insist on bringing in his own guys, at least a pitching coach, maybe a third base coach as well.
No doubt about that. So then Mike Elias stepped to the podium. He spoke for at least 45 minutes. Explain first what he's looking for in his next manager, and more importantly, who's going to be involved.
Not going to be entirely my decision. The different members of the ownership group will be very involved. Other members of baseball operation, Katie Griggs, members of her side of the organization, I'm sure will be involved. So,
all right. That raised some eyebrows. The way I read that is the president of business operations, Katie Griggs, obviously will be involved in the managerial search. Members of the ownership group. I hope Cal Ripken Jr. is in the room. I don't know why Katie Griggs, who handles the business aspect, is in that room, especially if they're going to bring back Manzolino. With all due respect, Tony Manzolino is not going to sell additional tickets to this fan base.
Well, you never know. But I do think that they're just trying to keep it all contained. I think they're trying to promote whatever they possibly can from a business side of things too. So if you have a manager that actually works with the community, I mean, that makes things more attractive. I think it brings back that nice family touch to the Orioles. Maybe that's what they're looking for. I don't think she'll have the impact to where if she just put her finger up, that no chance Manzolino gets the job, or would have that kind of impact, but certainly wants to have a feel that they're going to be able to communicate with the manager and hopefully work together.
Absolutely. And I understand ownership wanting to have a hand, but never heard Cal Ripken Jr.'s name mentioned in there. I would like him in that room.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt about it, man. I think if one thing is missing, it's that kind of Iron Man presence, man. Step to the forefront a little bit. Let us know that we're in baseball country right here. Yeah, bring on the analytics, whatever you got. But Cal Ripken is all baseball, man. The Oriole way was built by the Ripken family. So why not have him front and center?
Yeah, have a real baseball guy in the room, along with Elias and his, staff, and some would call him the geek squad. The analytical people. Not me, though. All right. So, Mike, I had to ask Elias a couple of things after listening to him speak and answer a couple of questions. Like, how about this search, Mike, and how long is it going to take?
ASAP for the manager. I got a very busy offseason ahead of me. A lot of player business, as usual, but a lot of player business this offseason and a lot of hiring. And then also, we tend to lose people to other organizations. Then so we have a lot in front of us, and getting the manager in as early as possible. I also think there's gonna be a lot of competition on the managerial market this year. So ASAP there.
How did you read that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I think, yeah, he wants to get the manager. That's why I think the scale leans more towards Manzolino, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But I think there are going to be interview processes. Who knows? Maybe somebody pops and it's all of a sudden the perfect fit. But I think Manzolino's the guy. Listen, Elias said, what happens if their coaching staff starts leaving? What happens if Sanders gets a managing opportunity or any of the other guys gets managing opportunities? And what about Manzolino himself? I mean, there's going to be openings all over baseball. So we'll see how all this goes. Let's hope the Orioles, though, can kind of get things headed in the right direction so it doesn't get into like panic mode in the middle of winter.
But Mike, I feel like they need a veteran manager in that clubhouse to maybe kick some of these younger guys in the rear end to get them a little motivated. No disrespect again to Manzolino, but maybe a different, more experienced voice is what they should be looking for.
Yeah, a couple different ways to look at that, Jerry. I think about some of the great managers that I've played for and against, and I remember when Mike Hargrove came onto the scene with the Cleveland Indians. Of course, a well-respected player, the human rain delay because he took so long with his gloves, but he inherited a team in Cleveland that was very similar to the young Orioles, all kinds of young guys, and he had to teach those guys how to discipline themselves, actually become major league players, understand the detail of the game, the importance of every out and every inch. And he turned that team around and made them a powerhouse team in the 90s. Now, I think Hargrove, when he came over to the Orioles, he adapted and adjusted. I think young managers can still have an impact. And I think Manzolino's voice still resonates. And these guys, they played really hard for him. Listen, this was a B squad for the last couple months of the season, and he ran them out there and really competed. And I think, it was kind of fun watching him try to play spoiler at the end. I just believe Manzolino deserves a shot. If you want the voice to impact players, it's got to come from a player. It's got to come from a veteran player. The manager has to be respected, but the players police themselves. And if the top player respects the manager, everything's going to be fine. I can go through history. Buck Showalter, when Buck Showalter was a young manager with the Yankees, you don't think that clubhouse wanted to run him out, but he had a relationship with Donnie Baseball. Don Mattingly kept the clubhouse together and say, listen, Buck's okay. Let's work for him. And I think that can happen in this clubhouse.
And he feels like there's leaders that can grow there with time.
Absolutely. But it's not just our young guys that we want to be the leaders. I've pushed for Adley to step in front of the camera, Gunnar as well. Maybe it's outside. A veteran player that's been through the battles, just coming off postseason and says, listen, you guys, I've been with young teams. This is how we got to do it. And it holds these guys more accountable on a daily basis. Instead of a manager breathing down a player's neck, if a veteran guy that's got a World Series ring is screaming on a guy, believe me, they will listen.
Well, one thing that I listened to Elias say, and really not say in so many ways, is the search for a GM doesn't seem as pressing, not as urgent as the way I read it from what he had to say. And I just feel like he's staying in that role as GM. Here's what he had to say when I asked him about it.
I think it's pressing for us to get better as a front office, to bolster, to continue to evolve, learn about best practices, get talent in. It's just that position. That's not something I'm going to force on a certain timetable, and it's going to have to be right.
That to me says we're not in the market for a general manager. We're just going to hire a manager, and I'm going to retain that position as general manager. That's the way I read it simply.
Yeah, I think so too. And if anything, either Eve Rosenbaum or Sig Meidel might slide into that general manager spot, or one of the underlings there. So, yeah, I don't think there is any kind of pressing issue. But I like the fact that they want to keep building the front office, try to learn more, just get it more concrete and solid. So this organization is still kind of evolving and adapting and adjusting. And of course, everything that happened this season has made it just a complete reset. So hopefully they've been able to look in the mirror and understand exactly what their strengths and weaknesses are. And let's hope they can now make the adjustments this offseason to have that sustainable success that we've all been hoping for.
And listen, time is of the essence. The window is closing on these younger players. They're under contract for only a certain amount of time. You got to take advantage of the situation before that window is shut and these guys walk.
Oh, no doubt about it, man. I mean, shoot, there's urgency in the major leagues every year. I mean, every opportunity you have to win, you really have to jump at it because, when this championship season is done and the Orioles continue to lick their wounds and try to patch and fill the spots that are vacant and trying to make themselves as good as possible, every other team is doing the same thing, and every other team's going to get healthier and better. I just, Garrett Cole pops into my head for the Yankees. Here the Yankees are in the postseason, and they don't even have their ace. So, it's going to be a tough battle for sure.
It's so funny. I was watching, you see Max Fried go against Garrett Crochet. Those are two guys that could have been wearing Oriole uniforms during the offseason, but the Orioles had no interest in pursuing them. Do you think they're going to be active in free agency? They claim they're going to spend wisely.
Yeah, wisely scares me a little bit because I think if you want to land an ace, you've got to be a little bit more aggressive and be willing to pay a little bit more because that's what it's going to take, whether it's another year or another 25 or $30 million to land a bona fide, starting pitcher. So they're going to have to bite the bullet in that regard. I think they can save money in the bullpen, but man, you got to get a frontline arm to eat up some innings.
One thing they can hang their hat on, the Toronto Blue Jays finished in last place a year ago and won the AL East this year. So you can turn it around that rapidly.
I know, absolutely. Absolutely. And health is wealth for sure. I think if the Orioles stayed healthy early on in the year, we'd be talking completely differently right now. So they've got to find to stay healthy. They've got to find a way to rebuild this organization and get quality major league players as well, and hope that some of these younger players get more consistent at the highest level.
Yeah, even the Ravens feel sorry for the amount of injuries the Orioles endured this season, which says something because the Ravens are going through a lot right now.
They say it all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer, or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone, exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955, proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Man. All right. Let's move beyond Baltimore. Brought to you by Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary with 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery available for medical patients courtesy of Relief Shop. They're right there on Cathedral Street. So, Bordy, there were no no-hitters for the first time in 20 years in MLB. There have been plenty of years without a no-hitter. I think it's only occurred 5 times since 1969, but have times changed now, Mike, where we're not going to see that many no-hitters, if any at all, especially with the pitch limitations on some of these guys. Again, if they go past 100 pitches, their arm may fall off. Even though
No, that's for sure. The game has changed in that regard. They're trying to protect these arms. And I think with the amount of injuries, it only makes sense. Every starting pitcher now except for a couple of ours like Sagano and Trevor Rogers, are max effort pitchers. So their arms it's inevitable. They're going to break down a little bit. So I think whatever team can kind of figure that out and keep these guys healthy is going to be the key. But yeah, they'll come out of the game at 100 pitches, which is typically they're all over the place, kind of spray painting the strike zone. So 100 pitches in 5, maybe 6 innings if you're lucky. And you go to the bullpen where a guy will throw 100 miles an hour for an inning, maybe 2 innings. But you're facing different arms, different challenges. It's kind of funny, though, because the Orioles this year almost got no hit if it wasn't for Jackson Holiday there with 2 outs, in the ninth inning, breaking up the no hitter. And the Orioles themselves as a team had stretches where, like, in games, they would be no hit for 7 innings. So it's surprising to me that there wasn't a no hitter this year. But I just think it's going to be harder. And even I think you can look at it a few different ways, right? Obviously, what we're just talking about, starting pitchers and now having to deal with more bullpen arms. And of course, the velocity's up. But also, teams are starting to put the ball in play a little bit more. I know it doesn't seem like it because the Orioles strike out so much and the strikeout is still prevalent. But the more times teams put the ball in play, those chances to break up no-hitters obviously will go up.
Yeah, Yoshinobu, I think I got the first name right. Yamamoto was the guy who came the closest there, 1 out away. I think it was 1 strike away before Jackson Holiday broke it up, and the Orioles had that miraculous comeback on the Cal Ripken Street 30-year anniversary. I think we're going to see combined no-hitters going forward. I think it's going to be very rare where you see one individual guy. Maybe it's a Tarek Skubal or a special pitcher like Garrett Crochet that can go the distance, and their manager will permit that. But I think the combined no-hitters are more of the thing of the future.
No, I totally agree with you there. I think that is going to become more commonplace if indeed they do end up throwing more, or the no-hitter becomes more back in vogue. Where you might see it, though, is in the postseason, because for some reason I feel like managers are going to start letting starters go just because of the risk of bringing different arms in. If a starting pitcher has it going on, I think they might just let them run with it and see where it goes.
It's funny because the last no-hitter was thrown by a guy who was going great in the playoffs a few years ago with the Rays, Blake Snell, then with the Giants, did it to the Reds last August the 2nd. That was the last single pitcher no-hitter.
How about that? Yeah, pretty amazing, right? Yeah, because the risk, I don't know, and reward. No-hitter, who cares if it's a no-hitter? If you're throwing 125 pitches, your elbow is going to blow up. That's what the thought process is.
All right, we move along. Let's bring in the doc. It's our What's Up, Doc segment. And Dr. Michael Jacobs, former team doctor for the Orioles for 30 seasons. Doc, an opinion real quickly about these pitch counts. I mean, I said to Mike before the podcast, they don't keep track of how many pitches you throw in between innings and in the bullpen. And I mean, you add those up and you're well over 100.
That is a situation of common sense seems to rule. There is no data to show any of that. Now, obviously, I have made this comment before. If you look at a 1970s data book, you'll see that about 30 pitchers threw close to 300 innings. I think it can be hopelessly overdone, and there's no question the agents have a role in this. I remember when Davey Johnson was managing the Nationals, Strasburg was coming off his Tommy John surgery, and he looked fine. They managed his innings. And they ended up not going to the World Series because Davey was probably a half a pitcher short. And his agent, Scott Boras, refused to let him pitch after his innings limit. And neither myself nor Jim or Andrews is going to say another 30 pitches is going to ruin this guy's life. And I'm sure it cost Davey Johnson a shot at the World Series then. So this stuff is common sense. It has to be tempered. And it really goes back to what Mike and you and I have all said in the past, that if they would teach pitchers to pitch for 9 innings and not throw 100%, they could easily go over 100 innings. But they're into this power bats, power arms, and they're just into this disposable pitcher mentality of they'll all get their Tommy John, they'll all come back. I'll use them for their 4 years before their elbow goes, which is a terrible way to do things. But so long as the only solution, and I've talked about this to Buck Showalter, in fact, and also to Brandon, they need to limit the number of the pitchers a major league staff can have. If they say you're back to 11 pitchers, then they're going to have starters going more than 4.5 innings and give them 3 years or 2 years to make that adjustment. And then they'll have to let the minor league stretch pitchers out. I always remember back in 62 or so, Warren Spahn and Juan Marichal pitched a 0-0 game, and it went 15 innings, and Spahn pitched off 15 innings. And Juan Marichal, who was a youngster then, they kept trying to pull him out of the game, and he kept saying, as long as that so-and-so is going out, so am I. And eventually the Giants won on a Willie Mays home run, but they both pitched 15 innings. And, Marichal still lasted a long time, admitting that Spahn was probably 60 years old by then anyway. But, it's a matter of how you train these guys. And Smoltz and Palmer have multiply said if they would just train minor leaguers to go that far, use their pitches and alter their pitch selection and work with their catchers, there's no reason they can't throw more. But that's the fault of today's pitching mentality, and all of this analytics-driven front office is not helping matters.
Doc, we're going to stay with this topic. Go ahead, Mike.
Doc, I just wanted to know, I know this. It wasn't too long ago when you saw pitchers just running poles, constantly running poles. And that used to be I guess, arguably their most important training method for endurance. Do they still run like that? And are they concerned with endurance at all of starting pitchers? Or are they more concerned with the power and explosive move?
Well, each team has its own policy. We did not do much endurance running for pitchers. If you go all the way back to the 60s, which I'm old enough to do, there were two approaches to pitching. There was the drop and drive approach of Tom Seaver, who came out of the game with dirty kneecaps. And there was the downhill approach of Jim Palmer with the big back arch and pitching downhill. And the Mets always believed in the drop and drive approach, and they did tons of running. And the downhill approach, the Jim Palmer approach, did less running. Today, I think with the emphasis on power pitching, it's more of a level-changing approach where you go high to low. And I remember I was watching a game with Kevin Brown once, and in the locker room between
the pitcher, not the broadcaster, right?
Yes, the pitcher, Kevin Brown,
That's
who was a dynamite sinker pitcher. And he said, Doc, it's a game of level changes. You go high, you go low. It's not a game of right to left. It's a game of top to bottom. And I guess that tends to favor the high-low approach of the big leg kick and coming top to bottom. But I don't see many teams working on lower extremity driving the ball. That's not, to my knowledge, that is not in vogue right now.
Doc, my final question to you is, has the term pitch count, was it ever mentioned to you? Like, did they run that by you for approval or maybe advice? Like, can we let this guy go this many pitches, Doc?
Well, back in the 90s, I tried to take that approach to the pitching guys, and they kind of blew me off. And I always remember Mark Eichhorn was coming off an injury, and we played extra innings. And I mean, he'd throw no more than 15 or 18 pitches, and he was pitching so well, they dragged him out to like 60 pitches. And he basically was never effective again. So we try to bring up limits for guys coming off rehab, but weren't really respected for it. It was like, Doc, stay in your corner. And now it's just become 100 pitches is like picked out of the sky. There's no magic to 100 pitches. There's no data for it. It just seems like, well, it goes from 2 digits to 3 digits. Seems like a nice number to pick, but there's no data to say that's better. And obviously, you gotta watch the game. I mean, I still go back to the first World Series the Astros won when Rich Hill was unhittable for 4 innings at 70 pitches. He was totally unhittable, and the Stratomatic card said take him out the third time through the lineup. So they took him out because the Stratomatic card said the Dodger bullpen would end the game. He ended up burning his bullpen in that game because the Dodger bullpen faltered, and then his bullpen ran out of gas at the end of the series, and the Astros won. And I am sure the guys in the Houston dugout were saying, we're sure glad Hill's out of the game because today he was unhittable, right?
All right.
You know, isn't that how you guys see it, Mike? When you see a guy come out who you're coming back going, man, he's tough today, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. Happy as
I
heck.
always remember the cutouts of the 63 World Series. The first game Sandy Koufax pitched, Mickey Mantle struck out in the first inning. He flipped his back and walked back to the dugout and said, boys, we aren't getting many hits today, just like that. And they did it.
Dr. Michael Jacobs, appreciate it. Our What's Up Doc segment is there. We also want to thank our loyal and dedicated sponsors who have been with us throughout this entire season. The regular season is over, but we keep going well into November until they find a manager, maybe a GM, we'll see.
It all comes back to your roots, right? At Grassroots, high-quality cannabis is in their nature. From soil to soul, their passion for cannabis and community inspires everything they do. Try your favorite strains from their cultivar library of top-shelf flower, pre-rolls, and concentrates. Whether you're cheering from the stands or chanting for the O's at home, their crafted flower helps you curate the perfect game day. Ask for Grassroots Cannabis at your favorite dispensary in Maryland.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
Also want to thank our intern extraordinaire, senior executive intern, Grant DeVivo. He's done a terrific job all year. He's not going anywhere, helping us out on the baseball podcast, but instrumental in this podcast each and every week, behind the scenes work. And yeah, Chip Franklin helps out every once in a while. Until next time, be real, be kind, and make sure to be back next week. Another episode. It's the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.